Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 5 and Super Rugby AU, or as we like to say it, Super Rugby Gold Round 2 preview here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Yes, we have more live sport. Isn't this great? After all this lockdown stuff, and we can be a bit smug looking at other countries who aren't managing to get themselves into ship shape. This evening, I am joined by Steve, or Cornflake. How are you doing, sir?
Doing very, very well. Good to be back again, Paul. Talk some more live rugby and amazing sport coming out of our two countries. The rest of the world not looking too flash. All the eyes are on us. Isn't it great?
It is, absolutely. And from across the ditch, bringing us our Aussie point of view, we've got Shane. How are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks, Paul. How are you? It's good to have some rugby back on a Friday night in the land down under and New Zealand. We're just how good is it? Just rugby back, rugby unites, rugby heals.
Yes, and I'm being delusional. I'm drinking summer ale, trying to pretend it's warm here when it's not. Here in New Zealand, it's still cold, but thankfully it's looking like a dry weekend worth of games, which will be good. We've had some wet ones recently, haven't we? And if you've been following some of the Cornflake, what's that? So what's the other channel we've been doing some stuff for?
Good for the game.
Good for the game. There we go. So Good for the Game podcast. We've been doing some stuff for them, and they don't think much to my weather predictions. So me saying it's going to be dry means, you know what, folks, get your umbrellas out. Umbrellas and gumboots is the order of the day, because I'm saying it's going to be dry this weekend, which is good. Kicking us off, we are going to head to Melbourne. No, we're not. We're going to head to somewhere else, aren't we?
Brookvale Oval.
Brookvale Oval. There we go. In Sydney, or just outside of Sydney?
Manly.
Yep, Manly.
Manly, Sydney. For someone from England, I'll tell you, Sydney's close enough as far as from a geography point of view.
From my little small town perspective, wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, I haven't really. So the Rebels versus the Reds there. So the Rebels, look, when they left, they weren't sure whether they were going home or not. And so this has all been done a bit on the fly. So first off, congratulations to Rugby Australia over there, the Rebels and the Reds, for keeping the show on the road. Well done, guys. And thank you for doing that. But Shane, how do you think they'll have coped with the fact that they are still on the road and they've not been able to go home?
Yeah, I wonder about that, Paul, and I've wondered about that all week, particularly with a lot of the AFL clubs as well, having to move to Queensland and New South Wales before some of them go off to Western Australia next week.
Oh dear. Looks like Shane's connection is a bit dodgy tonight, and he's got him frozen on us. Oh dear, shame about that. And we'll hopefully that'll sort itself out. Steve, it's, as he's there saying, look, they're having trouble. It's a bit of a problem. Let's just quickly run through that lineup then. Gibbon, Ulesi, Famiasuli, Phillip, Stolberg, Kemi, Hardwick, Wells is your pack. Lawrence and Tumuma running things. Corabetti without the beard. I tell you, it was hard to recognise him. On the other side, Andrew Kellaway, the apparently in-form player, even though he's not played for 3 months. Meeks and McGann in the middle there, and Dane Hallett-Petty at fullback. Again, another Rebels team with skill in the backs there, and a forward pack that stood up last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you've got to be proud of, isn't it? That forward pack. Before we get on to the forward pack, don't you find it weird how they've gone back to Campbell Magnay in midfield? Not gone back to, but put in Campbell Magnay over Reece Hodge in that midfield spot. I found that really, really strange. Sort of, 1 round in, you're rotating already. Whatever, Rebels. But yeah, their pack. I mean, if they're going to look at the positives from last week, the pack has to be that number one positive. They stood up far beyond what was expected from them. I didn't even think they'd even probably bother to try and go that sort of way in that sort of style of game against the Brumbies last week, but they really did put in a performance I think they could be quite proud of and build on as well, which is the important thing, because they're going to be up against, I think, a similar sort of style of play with this Reds team as well. So, yeah, good for players to step it up there, and especially, I think, guys like Kemeny, who's he? Come on quite nicely for Australia. Another guy who's stepped up to a good level as well. Matt Phillip is a name I pointed out pre-season of the starting, who I thought was going to be key to them. He's very, very good in the second row, almost like another flanker in the way he plays, gets around the field. So good from the pack. The Rebels aren't known to perform that sort of way from their forwards, so it is brilliant to see them doing that. Now they need to convert that and get the backs going just as well too, because I still have my concerns and reservations about that link-up man. Matamua, is he going to get that production from the forwards? Can he give that forward momentum to his backs? I think that's where they struggled last weekend, and they need to sort that out as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A player that I think a lot of us think of as a good distributing 12, not really a 10 in there. Mafu or Ainsley, Jose, Hannigan, Leota, Lomani, and Reece Hodge there on the bench. Interesting to see Vessels come out and talk about the fact that that Hodge and Magnay had a hard couple of weeks. And you're like, they're only one game in. They've not even had 2 weeks worth of play, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Good comment by Nocturnal Rights mentioning that there's some confusion, some confused looks by the fullbacks last week, trying to figure out when a kick is a 50-22 or when a kick's gone in goal as to is it a 22 dropout or not. Well, folks, no more 22 dropouts, full stop. I think that's really the only one that's been that I think we've not been happy with, is it? Is that goal line dropout. Yeah,
I think the players who do the kicking certainly knew what was going on with the touchline 50-22s, etc. The goal line stuff, that was a bit of a shambles. No one really knew what the repercussions are going to be if they took it back or if it was bouncing in there. It's kind of, I think we will see a change this weekend. It's going to force teams. Hopefully they've learned from that weekend. They've got a week of it under their belt. They'll know, hey, if it's rolling in there into my own goal, doesn't matter. I can't sit back and wait for it to roll into my own goal and play the safe game of 22. I need to get back there and get that ball as soon as possible so I can get it back the other way, because that is going to, that's going to punish me if I can't get it back and kick it back down the other side as quickly as I can. So that does, bring that sort of aspect to the game. The actual act of the goal line dropout, pointless, weird, doesn't really advantage the team that's attacking. So if you get held up over the line, it kind of puts away from teams to be trying to try that sort of forward play as much as they would have in the past. But the kicking game, if I want to look at a positive from the new laws, it is the fact that they can change the game very, very quickly. The team under the pump can get a good punt away and turn a defensive play into an attacking play with your own set piece. So that's a positive if you want to look at it. Yeah, it's not rugby as we know it, but it can quickly change the game. And, if teams are struggling, it doesn't take them away from trying something that can quickly get them back on that attacking front as well. So there's a little positive in there that we can take from it. Is it going to be an internationally groundbreaking sort of law change? I can't see that happening, though.
No, it was still rugby as we kind of know it. I think it didn't look like a totally different game, so that was fine. For me, if the opposition or if the attacking team kick it over the line, you put it down, you would have got a 22 dropout before. And then you've got the option of kicking deep or kicking short to try and win it. If you're kicking from your own goal line and it's got to go 5 meters, you're not kicking short, are you? Because if you don't collect it, the opposition are going to get it. So it removes the tactical options there. You just have to kick it long. You've got no choice. What is interesting, though, is you can take it from anywhere along that line. It doesn't have to be from under the posts. So it's going to be interesting to see if some teams do play with some tactics that way and shift where they're actually kicking it from. We'll have to wait and see. How that all goes. Good evening to everyone in the live chat. Great to have you there. This is a real cool way to get yourselves ready for the games that are about to kick off. So let's then now look at the Reds then. Over there, Huput, Pangatamosa, Tupu, Blythe, Salakala, Lotto in the engine room. Wright, McWright, Wilson, those young loose forwards, really a good crowd there. McDermott and O'Connor running things with Hamish Stewart, that second playmaker in the 12 jersey, and Payasami in the 13. Duguni, Campbell and Hegarty are your back three. So another playmaker in that 15 jersey. Maffey, Smith, Nasser, Tuolami, Scott Young, Malula, Fanga Soti, and Fluke there, with Fluke being potentially his debut this weekend. So going again with that three playmaker option. Interesting one by the Reds there.
Yeah, well, we talked about this last week, didn't we? About how the Reds going with that option of having those three guys who can obviously run the show at number 10. But I think we've seen a different sort of style of play from those people. Now, James O'Connor definitely was the man who ran that show. Hamish Stewart played such a different game to the Hamish Stewart we would see in a number 10 jumper. So Stewart was very direct. He ran a lot. He took the line on. And he kind of played like, I guess, like you'd expect a 12 to play, not like a 10 playing out of position. So that was fresh. I think Higgity didn't try and influence himself too much. He popped in and out as you'd expect the forward to do. He took over those duties if required. But I was most impressed by the way that Hamish Stewart played that role at 12. Didn't overplay his hand, didn't try to force himself in at 10, stayed outside, took on that defence, and was a running, carrying threat in the game, which is something we haven't seen from him. I think he benefited as well by knowing that he didn't have that pressure of, oh crap, if I take on the line, I've got to go back and I've got to set up to kick, or I've got to set up the next play. He could go into a breakdown with confidence to know that I don't need to be up in the back line for that next phase. I can carry, and we've got James O'Connor back there. We've got Higgity who can carry on for me. So I think that freedom gave him a bit more confidence to play his own game, and I think he had his best game in a Reds jumper that I've seen for quite a long time. And Tate McDermott as well. He is, I think, one of the best number 9s running around Australian rugby. A real force around the ground. A great pass, fast, strong for a man of his size, as most 9s are. But yeah, really impressive from him. And of course, the pack, we know the Reds pack is really strong, really mobile, gets around the park really. I was impressed by Fraser McWright, another new name, complemented very well with the captain, Liam Wright. Gets really confusing with Wright and Mick Wright in there. So, nice pack. Benefits coming through in that backline playing like that. And, if you're sitting there, Brad Thorne, and you watch that game, you say, I don't need to change anything here. That my team played pretty well, and we had plenty to build on, and no one really looked lost in their game. And the Reds should definitely take heart from that, and they can go on and up from there with another week under their belt.
Good point there by Three Pete saying anybody in the Brad Thorne's Red team other than James O'Connor over 30. Yeah, look, this is a very young side. That's true. There is not much experience in that team. They're doing really well. I mean, obviously, a number of their experienced players decided not to re-sign contracts, while they're not. Yes, that also. His hand has been partially forced, but yeah, he's definitely looking at youth, which is good. Now, interestingly, Jordan Clark said, I'm predicting some upsets this weekend, but not tonight. He's gone Reds by 13. Wow, that's a big margin. What's your call on this one, Shane? Steve, sorry.
I agree with them. Maybe not by 13, but I really like the Reds. I like how they play. The Rebels surprised me last week. I think they played a lot better than I was expecting, but I think they're going to be up against the same sort of style, and I think the Reds are going to be more focused. I think they're going to get better as they play more. We've seen that over the last probably season and a half from them now, and I think they're going to get the job done here over the Rebels by 4 points.
See, I think the Rebels are I think the Rebels are actually the favourites. So I think they should be the favourites in this one. And I'm backing Rebels by 3. I think it's going to be a Rebels Brumbies final. I think they're the best two sides quite clearly in this competition. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. So there you go, folks. I'm apparently trying to pick it. I'm picking an upset when I thought I was picking the favourite when I picked it. So there you go. Moving on to the second game this weekend, which is the Crusaders versus the Blues, the big one this weekend. Quickly run through that Blues side then. Moody, Taylor, Alalatoa, Whitelock, Dunshay, Sanders, Christie, Douglas as the pack, Hall, Moanga, with Goodhue and Enor in the centres there. Bridge, Reese and Havili are the back three. Makaleo, Boa, Jaeger, Quinton Strange, Havili, Sione this time to come off the bench with Drummond, Paya and Will Jordan. So ain't a little bit of noise about Will Jordan being on the bench, but essentially this is the this Crusaders team. yeah, look, it's their first choice with a little bit of rotation, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's interesting too. What is in the mind of Scott Robinson to say, what is your first choice team? What is your best 15 you could put out on the paddock at one time? He's got headaches if that is the case, because how do you fit 4 into 3 without putting someone out of position, essentially? I guess I have been surprised about all this rotation in that back 3, but he's resisted the temptation to do anything about his midfield partnership of Goodhue and Enor. When we started the season, we said, oh, Brad and Enor at 13, where's his best spot? Is he a winger? Is he a midfielder? Where does he fit in as the best place? It seems they have gone with that Enor 13 and Goodhue 12 sort of combination, and looks like they're going to say, that's it. You guys are going to play together all season long. Brad and Enor, if you're a future All Black or whatever it is coming from you, you're going to build this partnership here in this position with the current, or he's up there with one of the top number 12s in New Zealand rugby. So that's nice for him to get that sort of clarification, I guess, is where he's going for his future as well. But yeah, so much depth in the Crusaders. It's almost embarrassing, isn't it, when they can drop a guy like Will Jordan to the bench and still have guys like Sevu Reece and David Harvili and George Bridge coming back off the bench. It's just crazy, the talent that team has. And that's why they're so good. When you can give Will Jordan, he's cranked it up for the last few weeks. Have a rest, son. Have a 20-minute dig off the end of this game. Keep fresh. Don't overwork yourself. And that's why they're always at the peak of New Zealand rugby.
Yeah, no, so they can rotate, and it is rotation. This isn't Will Jordan being dropped for any reason. He's just being rotated from this. Nocturnal Right saying we don't want to go down too many rabbit holes, but just very briefly, he's gone and said Goodhue might be the All Blacks 12. And that's a plan for him there. Well, funny that, but you've also got Anton Leonard-Brown playing in the 12 jersey at the moment. So the two kind of 13s from the All Blacks, both playing in 12 at the moment. So yes, I think that they see 12 and 13 as being pretty interchangeable. You're probably only looking at Laumape, who's an out-and-out 12, as opposed to be able to play both positions of all the contenders. So I think they want players to be able to play both on the whole. So no weak links there in that Crusaders lineup. I guess the only question is around those again, and we say this all the time, but they always stand up, which is the 6 and 7 in Christian Sanders, perhaps a bit young, perhaps a bit inexperienced, got a couple of injuries in that space. Because I've got blank as to who the Callum Grace, wasn't it? Who was the
Callum Grace, Billy Harmon, Ethan Blackadder, all out injured.
All out injured. So a bit of injuries there. If the Blues are going to win it, then they're going to need Akira Iwani, Dalton Papali'i, and Hoskins Sotutu to really step up in those loosies positions. Run through the rest of the side then. Hodgman, Parsons, and Tongafasi on the front row. Tuipulotu and Goodhue in the engine room. That's those loosies that I mentioned. Then you've got Finlay Christie and Terry Black running things. So Finlay Christie coming on and Ruru dropping to the bench. In the centres, Harry Plummer and Rico Iwani, with TJ Fayani again dropping to the bench. Caleb Clark, Mark Talia, who has been one of the outstanding new players in Super Rugby, and then Bowden Barrett at 15. Coming off the bench, Eklund, Carl Tuanakafi, so the All Black is back on the bench. Mafaleo, Carroll and Gibson are your forwards replacements. Ruru, TJ Fayani, and Matt Duffy, the backs replacements. So I guess the big talk really is that 12 jumper, isn't it? TJ Fayani, to me, the unsung hero of that back line that holds it all together defensively. Harry Plummer, the young sort of fly half from Auckland, getting his chance to be that second playmaker, a bit like the Reds playing 3 playmakers in here with Terry Black and Bowden Barrett. Is this the way forward, having your 12 as your as a playmaker rather than a bashing up runner?
Well, I mean, if you've got a good one that you can bring in, then possibly that would be the case. But I don't think the Blues have that good one that they can bring into that spot at all. It's kind of, you're getting near the end of the barrel, aren't you, when you're bringing on Harry Plummer to start. No offense to him. I mean, he's been good at Mitre 10 Cup level and that sort of place. But when he steps up here, we've seen him in the past really struggle with this level. And I'm really surprised they've gone with this sort of idea now against the Crusaders. This, I don't think, is their best time to do it. They've got plenty of other opportunities. Even the Highlanders would be a better stab at throwing this out of course, the Chiefs would be the optimal time to do it, and the Hurricanes would also be the best chances to do it. Not here against Crusaders, not now. And this is, we talk about it, it's a round robin. You've got to top the table. Getting in second and then making to a final or third, fourth, whatever, you're not going to cut the mustard here. They've got to win these big clashes, and to change the style of play that surely this will bring does have me quite perplexed as to why they're doing that now, why it hasn't been something they've done early in the season. So I'm a bit confused about Plummer, and I don't have the most faith in him as a player at this level yet, because we have seen in the past things go wrong from him, things start crumbling around him. He doesn't have that self-belief or self-confidence that, if Bowden Barrett stuffs something up, the next play he's going to be right up there trying it again or trying something else. He's got that belief. Sure, he's one of the best players in the world. Okay, it's a different kind of comparison. But if you want to play at this level, you've got to have that self-belief and self-confidence, not to drop your head, to get up, go again, especially for the Blues if they want to really fully commit to being this best team in New Zealand again that they're so striving to be. They're almost there, and it just seems a weird time to come out there throwing that sort of curveball at them. And all I can really think is they're going to just play 100% territory. Pretty much, if you're not attacking the Crusaders 22, you're kicking the ball. Get those big boys up there to get you in a good spot, get you going forward, put the defence on the back foot, play it back, get one of these guys to just thump it downfield and just keep on attacking that way. And that's going to be, I think, their best form of attack, is really that set-piece sort of defence and kicking for territory.
Yeah, so Steve and I have been on another show already talking about all of this. So, you've softened your opinion slightly on Harry Plummer over the past couple of hours. Look, again, my initial position was, look, you've got three kickers in there that's going to be just force the Crusaders to play long. But just maybe, what they're thinking of here is, look, let's get another distributor in there at 12 and spin that ball wide. So Rico Iwani, Mark Talia, Caleb Clark, and Bowden Barrett. That back four has wheels, absolute wheels. So just maybe, we'll see them switch it up and surprise everybody by spinning it wide to those guys. Is that a clever game plan? Not sure personally, but we'll see how it pans out. Yes.
The Crusaders are going to play. I think they're going to drag this down to a test match sort of style of play, because they know how to play that sort of style of game. I think regardless of how the Blues play or what sort of tactical abilities they have with this sort of style, they're going to be close, because the Crusaders, yes, they want to score points, but they'll want to drag their opponents down, make them work too hard, drive them, tire them, like we've seen last week, where they can really absolutely hammer it right at the end. So they'll drag this game into the area they want to, as the Crusaders always do. So expect it to be close and tight. Whether the Blues can turn that into confidence and make something from it is going to be ultimately how they decide this game. But if the Crusaders have their way, they'll grind it down, they'll wear them out, tie them down, and then bang, right at the end, 20 points on. And we've seen what that happens last week.
Wow. So what's your call then? 20 points on at the end there. What's your call?
My call is certainly the Crusaders. What was my margin? 8 points. So, yeah, I mean, maybe the Blues could lead this at the end, but they're not going to win it. I think the Crusaders just too good right at the end. They're just, too good throughout. It's too good of a team. They're at home. The Blues are changing their style. It's just, they're going to struggle. I think I can't see a good way here for the Blues.
Yeah, I've gone Crusaders by 3. But the big question really is, Steve, what is the whiskey that you're drinking?
It's just whiskey from the bottle shop. I can't remember what brand it is, but it certainly is whiskey. I have to find out now.
As it's from the bottle shop, I'm pretty sure it's a blend. It's not a single malt, Aaron.
Oh no, it's just a cheap Jack Daniels. Should have known that.
There we go.
Good old Jack. Cheers, Jack.
So yes, I think a few people have it. I mean, I've got the jersey there. A few of us would love to see the Blues win it, but in the end, I think all the sensible money is on the Crusaders in this one. You are listening,
fellow South Islanders.
You are listening to New Zealand Sports Radio. Don't forget, you can listen to us on the go. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcatcher, be that iCast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Acast. And listen to us on the go, or you can watch us on Facebook. Check the Facebook page, or YouTube as well. So then, straight after that, we go into a game that is really head and heart for everybody. I think the Waratahs versus the Western Force. Looking at the Tars end, so Bell, Abel, Johnson, Holmes is the front row. Hannigan and Simmons in the engine room there, with Swinton, Hooper and Harris are the Lucies. Mitch Short still in there with Will Harrison to run things. In the centres, Joey Walton and Alex Newsom, the wings. Marky Mark, James Ram and Jack Maddox. Nakwane Tassi is my go at that. I know I've got it wrong. I'm sorry. On the bench, Horton, Faulkner, Turkapulu, Stanley Forth, Dempsey, McDonald, and then they've got a slash one, either Donaldson or Moreo, and then finally Carmichael Hunt is back as well. So looking at a lot of quite a few Wallabies in there. But the problem with these Tars is that basically they're less than the sum of their parts, aren't they, normally?
Oh, the Waratahs. Goodness me. If rugby was played on paper, they might do quite well, you would imagine. They've got some good names in there, don't they? But they just don't have those standout performers, those guys that lead from the front. Although some would argue Michael Hooper is that man, I'd argue against them. If you look at them last week, I was writing my review of these Australian games last week or after last weekend. And I wanted to try and pinpoint who I thought had great games for the Waratahs. And you look through this team and no one bar Will Harrison really stood out in that matchup from the Waratahs. He was great. He was in everything. He was composed. He looks like he's been there for years. He just really directs his team around quite nicely. But no one else really stood up. Mitch Short was okay. I think he come good at the end. He was quite impactful, although at the start he was a bit average. Will Harris as well was another one I thought come good at the end as well for the Waratahs. But over the whole 80 minutes, if you're going to pinpoint a man, Will Harrison was that guy. I think they need to work on their continuity in their backs as well. I feel sorry for Joey Walton. Such a big moment for him. He got some absolute horrid passes from inside and outside. James Ram threw one at his mug, just slapped him in the face. And you'd expect more, especially with like Alex Newsom, the experienced guy linking them in the middle of that centre pairing, going out to your wingers. That was a bit, they need to say more in there of those two. So we need to see more from Walton, Newsom, especially in that midfield if they're going to actually take it to that next level. Jack Maddox was good at the back. I thought when he did come forward, he had a bit of an impact, but you didn't see much from him elsewhere on there. And the forwards, they're a shambles, aren't they, that forward pack? So he's a shining light, Will Harrison. And he's a shining light not only for the Waratahs, but he's a shining light for Australian rugby as well.
Yeah, and from Twitter, Will Harris at 8 looked keen as well. But yeah, look, it's the young guys that are looking keen, looking good, isn't it, out of this, rather than the experienced ones who should be leading. And that's the problem with this Tars team, is that, look, it's your Hoopers, your Simmons, he's captain, and these kind of guys who should be leading this team, but they're not. Looking then, so yes, the heart pick for this one is definitely the Western Force. Now, we're going to have a disagreement on this one. I think we've got basically a lot of players who just aren't quite up to Super Rugby standard, plus with a few guys who have been brought in late on. But Cornflake will tell you differently. I'm just going to run through this side, then he can tell you how far I'm wrong. Wagner, Kaitu, Longbottom is the front row. Thrush and Lee Warner in the engine room. Stowers, Ferris and Stander are the Lucies. I'm not sure what all these thumbs up are about. Ian Pryor and John O'Lance be running things with Just and Branch in the centres. Langley, Ralston and McGregor are the back three. We've got Reddy, Heiberg, Holmes, Bardul, Callanan to come off the bench for the forwards, and Abel, Tafu and Godwin off in the backs as well. So come on then, Cornflake, talk about the spine of this team.
Oh, the spine is glorious. Now, the spine was the thumbs up. So if you're keeping track of Paul going through the team there, you showed exactly who I'm going to talk about. Now, it's experience, isn't it, playing this level? It's easy to say that the Force are made up of everyone that, the Waratahs, the Brumbies, the Reds and the Rebels didn't want. But this is a team, I think, that has that experience, has dragged those players away from Super Rugby, has pulled them over to Global Rapid Rugby and has built a team nicely around them. And the cool thing is about the Western Force is those guys that you've brought back, the Ian Pryors, the John O'Lances, the Kyle Godwins, they are Force players. Those are guys that have played for the Force already. So it's really good for the Force and good for Australian rugby as well, although they would never agree to it, but that the Force have that pulling power to bring those guys back. They want to go back and play for the Force back in Super Rugby, which means that club by no means is a dead sort of place in Australian rugby. It is well and truly alive and kicking. It does have the best supporter base in Australian rugby still, even though until this weekend, they haven't been Super Rugby teams going there or playing there at all. So it looks, again, like they should have a decent shout at it. You're going to have leaders throughout, the long bottoms and the thrush. Jeremy Thrush is a vastly experienced player that will lead this side in the pack. Henry Stowers and Bernard Stander have been guys who have been around domestically and in Super Rugby as well. We've talked about Pryor and Lance. If you haven't seen them in Super Rugby, then maybe go back and watch some games from 2 or 3 seasons ago. Marcel Braki, he is the new Matt Hodgson of Western Force Rugby. He is the life and blood of this team as well. So they've got guys that have been there for ages. They've got guys with that passion. They still have a couple of guys who know what it was like to play for the Western Force back in the Super Rugby days. So they'll bring that back. I think they're going to be passionate. That is their most key thing, is that they're going to come into this and they're going to want to prove a point. They're going to want to beat up the Brumbies because they're going to want to stick it to Australian rugby and say, you made a wrong decision back in 2017 or whenever it was that they got the kick out from Super Rugby. So they've got things to prove here. The Waratahs, I mean, what have they got to prove? I mean, their season's off to an average start as it is. They're already getting wiped out as everyone's saying the Brumbies are going to run away after this competition. They're on a running from a banana skin at the moment, the Waratahs, and the Western Force chasing them, whirling it at a hefty pace. And they've got to be really careful because they are a dangerous side that can win it, like the Highlanders, with that camaraderie of the team and the squad and that unity, can make a team of average players quite good. 2015 Super Rugby champions. Never forget.
Now, look, the Force are not Shoot Shield champs. They might have been the NRC champs last year, but not the Shoot Shield champs. Shoot Shield is the Sydney Club competition. But look, I do believe that this is not that they don't have enough Super Rugby talent, and I don't think that the Super Rugby players they've brought back have had long enough with the players to properly gel, and that's why I think the Tars are going to win this one. But you're right, it is a banana skin for them, and the Force will show plenty of heart. Which is not what I'm expecting to see from the Tars. That's not their style. Still, I think the Tars will just have too much international quality in there, even if we are talking about Wallabies rather than decent internationals, and are backing the Tars by 3. Yourself, Steve?
Oh, shots fired at the Waratahs. Goodness me, they're going down in all angles. I do agree with you. I mean, I'd love to see the Western Force pull something out of the bag here. I'll be happy to throw away my 100% pick record for this season for a Western Force win if I get this far through the round with it still intact. But I do think the Waratahs will have enough in the end to get the job done. I'm going close. I'm going tight. 5 points is all I'm going by. But yeah, you've got the headless chicken Waratahs versus the passion point provers of the Western Force. It's sure to be fiery. And I think we should get an entertaining match, if not for the rugby, but for the passion, and maybe a bit of fisticuffs and handbags being tossed around a bit could be nice.
Yes, so maybe it will be. Well, Shane talks about generally fight night, Friday night fight night, but maybe it'll be Saturday night fight night in the old in the old rugby. There, final game of the weekend is the Hurricanes versus the Highlanders, and some interesting selections. You've got to say by the Hurricanes, May Amua and Lomax in that front row, Blackwell and Scrafton in the engine room, Flanders, Karifi and Surveyor are the Lucies. TJ Pirinara is captain on his own, which we'll talk about that one. And with Fletcher Smith there, who comes in for Garden Bashop. And then you've got Lamapi and Arso in the centres. Lamb, Van Wyck and Geordie Barrett are the back 3. Off the bench, you've got Riccatelli, Rackety Stones, Fidel, Fafita, Murphy Taramai, with Jamie Booth, Billy Proctor, the man famous for safe offloads at the end of games, and Wes Houston. So you're looking at that, and got to be a bit concerned, really, temperament-wise, around TJ Pirinara. Look, he's been losing it with refs this season, and Dan Coles seemed to sort of get him under control last week, but he's not there this week, is he?
No, so he's got a slight, what they're calling a slight injury. So it mustn't be too bad. It is a calf injury that's seeing him out of this one. So yeah, the armband goes straight to TJ, which is a real area of concern, because Coles was that calming influence. As much as Coles is a bit of a fiery character himself, I think he did control TJ quite well last weekend in areas that could have got quite out of control. He was pushed aside. I think it actually helped his whole gameplay as well, although I never agree with what happens late on in the matchup with where he goes positionally to play. That is TJ. But yeah, Coles definitely had that influence on him last week. So that's missing. Where does TJ go now? Now you're the Highlanders. I'm thinking Highlanders, it's the mental game. Time to play with TJ. Time to really get under him, trying to rattle those bones, get him a little bit flustered, because he's really the only leader left in this team now, and it's going to come down to who's going to contest him. He's a captain. You got all these guys who are going to come out here and say, TJ, that's your job. They'll go back 10. They'll do their deed. TJ's going to be the only one left out there, and if referees get a bit short with them, and if they say, TJ, go away, what do? Find another captain? Does someone else stand up and take over? If that's the situation you find yourself in, that is terrible. That is not where you want to be at all. And that happened a couple of weeks ago, didn't it? Where he wanted to talk to someone else instead of TJ at the exact same instance, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Gareth Evans, who's now injured as well. So you're looking around and going, okay, Ardy Surveyor, you're going to be captain before the 30th minute. I think it's going to be.
Would Geordie step up to that role possibly as well? I don't know. You're looking at experienced players. I don't know if Laumape's not really an outspoken guy. I don't think he would really be one to do that. And Ben Lamb's been there a while, but he's not going to step up for that sort of role, I wouldn't imagine either.
But also, they're too far away for the referee to talk to, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So I can't look. To me, it's going to be you're looking at that pack. You go, well, maybe Ben May has got some experience, and Ardy Surveyor, and everyone else there. You're like, not much. I mean, Scott Scrafton's just gone down for the Blues. Not really a kind of leader either. You're looking around there going, okay, well, who's the leader? So it's going to be Ardy Surveyor to me. I think will be there. So that's your big question mark. Comments from Twitter there that Van Wyck is definitely doing enough to keep Houston out. Absolutely. Wes Houston it seems to have been off the boil, definitely off form since it's come back. Whereas Van Wyck has been playing really kind of well. Geordie Barrett made a decent return from injury as well last weekend, but is susceptible to the odd mistake at the back there. Lots of comments that basically the matchup between Aaron Smith and TJ Pirinara is going to be a cracking one. I think two guys who really do respect each other a lot, and you can just see that when they do change when they change over when they're in the All Blacks. But even so, I think there will be a bit of sledging of TJ by Aaron Smith. And let's look at that Highlands lineup then. So Johnson, Dixon, Tukalahi as a front row, Parry Parkinson, and other players you can just say their surnames. Parry Parkinson, you have to go for the full name there, I'm afraid. Wetton with Frizzell, Hunt, and Makalai Tu'u as the loosies. Smith and Hunt are there in the 9 and 10 jerseys. Tompkinson and Thompson are your centres with Nariki, Scott Gregory, and Collins are the back three. Off the bench, you've got Coltman, Leonard Brown, Thwaites, Selby Rickety, Jesse Parate, Hamilton, Gatland, and Ben Nicholas. That's right. The 23 jersey is being worn by a forward. It's a 6-2 bench there, folks. So I guess those to me are the two big talking points, really. Scott Gregory on the wing and a 6-2 bench.
Yeah, and the injury to Josh Dixon as well in the second row that sees Jack Wetton come in. A bit of a like for like, but I think they lose that normal expected sort of influence that Dixon did bring to the middle of that pack. So that'll be a bit of a loss for them. But yeah, Scott Gregory, boy, I hope and pray that he's going to have a better match than he did at fullback. I hope he's going to have a bit of that confidence. Maybe that he doesn't have to solely, do that same job again. is going to be interesting. So out in the wing, maybe a little bit more freedom, a little bit more ability to express himself is going to be a bit of an interesting aspect. I did want to say about how Geordie Barrett, as Aaron says, he's too far away. Geordie Barrett played pretty much that whole last week game against the Chiefs at fly half. He's not too far away. He just controls that whole game himself. So he's right there, I think, as well. But yeah, the Highlanders, I think it's going to be a same game plan. I mean, unlike the Blues, the Highlanders are smart enough here to go, we know what's working. Maybe we don't have the caliber of player that we can to change things up and mix things. We're not the Crusaders here. We can't just throw out, the most exciting man in the competition so far and bring in another equally exciting player. They know what they've got. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. And I feel they place them really, really well. And I think they're getting good stand-up performances from guys like Shannon Frizzell and, of course, Marino McAley too is phenomenal at number 8. So those guys are going to be key. They're going to have to get that dominance in the pack, and I think they can over the Hurricanes. So that's going to be huge for them to do that, get that set piece going, get that dominance going forward, get the big boys running forward. To go for that, I think, first choice front row again, Aiden Johnson, Liam Coltman, and Siati Tokalahi. So those are those key guys. Why have we got Coltman on here twice? I've just noticed my team list has Coltman on here twice, so that's really, really bad. Ash Dixon, I expect, would be one of those two. So, yeah, that pack's going to be important. Play that. Play the usual game. Hope that we can get saying Scott Gregory better than we've seen of him last time he was out. And I think, frazzle Pirinara, melt them down, get them carded and go from there. And contain Laumape. Number one important thing. C.O. Tompkinson, your job is clear.
Absolutely. Aaron, you makes the point that Scott Gregory is a centre. Yeah, a bit tough for Gregory being played out of position, but unfortunately, with Nay Milner-Skudder injured and Nabrura injured, just with the number of injuries they've got, they're having to play centres on the wings yet again, which is one of the problems for the Highlanders pre-lockdown. Was look, they had just so many back three injuries. And this is one of the reasons why they brought Milner Scudder in, why you had also in Josh Ioane, another guy who's out as well. So look, a lot of players. So that's why you've got Scott Gregory having to fill in positions that he's not used to. Now look, Weatherman here says it's going to be a windy game. Now depends which direction that wind's coming from. If it's going from the side, then it's going to be obviously going to be interesting. But I think if it's going from one of the ends, then one half you're going to be kicking, the other half you're going to be having to play out your own half, and that's why I think the Highlanders have gone for that 6-2 bench. Is because I think they know their forwards are going to have to go through a lot of work in one of the halves, playing out of their own half, and so that's why I think they've gone with that. And I think that's a sensible thing to do, and the Highland and the Canes haven't. And then when you're going to put when you put TJ Pirinara to 10. After about 60 minutes, that's going to be a real handicap for that Canes team if kicking is a key element. And I think it is going to be a key element here. So to me, I think the Highlanders have got their selection a lot better than the Canes have. Quick question in the chat there. McKay, is he injured? Not that I've heard of.
He's not on the list of injured players, which they've got 2 lists of injured players, unavailable and season-ending injury. So Josh Ioane is listed as not season-ending, which is interesting, so I thought it was. But yeah, he's not on the injured list at all. So who knows? Out of favour?
Yep, appears to be so. CEO has revenge modes against Lamapi, really?
Yeah.
I've obviously missed that one, but that'll be clearly an interesting one to keep an eye on them for their folks. Not only do we have a really interesting battle in the 9 jerseys, but also in the 12 jerseys as well, and potentially the 8 jerseys. Because look, this could be Arnie Surveyor is a person that a lot of people are thinking of as being that All Blacks at number 8, but Makalei Tutu, along with Hoskins Tutu, is putting his hand up for that jersey. So is this actually? Do we have an All Blacks kind of face off there in that 8 jersey as well? So so a lot of good matchups in this game because let's be honest, I don't think anyone expects either of these 2 teams to basically win the competition now. That's probably going to be the Crusaders. I've got their fingertips on that, but still there are lots of intrigue, lots of sort of storylines amongst this, rather not just the result that's really kind of interesting in this one. Having said that, I think I've already said, look, I think the Highlanders are better equipped for this game. They are away though, so I'm going Highlanders by 3, not by a big margin.
Yep, I pretty much agree with what you said there. I'm going Highlanders by just the 4 points. Another close game. I mean, the season has proved that there's no such thing as a big win, and even the big win we did see last week with the Crusaders and the Highlanders, that really wasn't. The scoreline didn't reflect that game fully. No game has this season been a completely dominant performance, which is great too for the competition and for the fans. You know, that you just never know. And this round has been impossible to pick. Really impossible. If you come out of 4-4 on this one, well done to you.
Yeah, I've gone by 3 in every single game because I think they're all because I think they're all going to be close. So yeah, I've gone for 3 home wins and an away win in there as well. But yeah, these I think we're up for a cracking weekend of rugby. I'm not saying all the games will be high skilled and great fun to watch, but I do think they'll be tense and close. So definitely on that side of things. We're only about 15 minutes away from kickoff for the first game. So folks, we need to recharge our drinks. We need to grab ourselves some snacks. So I have a couple of things to ask you to do in that 15 minutes as well. Share the video. Let your friends know about New Zealand Sports Radio. Also, please do remember you can listen to us on the go because remember we're doing the morning sports briefing coming to you live at 7 a.m. every morning on Facebook, or you can listen to us on your commute by downloading a podcast. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Acast, or your favorite podcatcher. It's all there. Let's say just 50 minutes away from kickoff. Let's enjoy some live rugby, guys. Thank you very much, Cornflake, for joining me this evening.